Hush, the package addressed to whoever lives here next. A package arrived for me last week, addressed to the current resident, except the label didn't say that. It said whoever lives here next, in the exact careful phrasing of someone who knew with certainty that I wouldn't be the one opening it. I live alone in a small rented house at the end of a cul-de-sac, the kind of place I've been in long enough that the mail carrier knows my name, knows my schedule, occasionally leaves packages on the side porch out of the rain without me asking. So when a box showed up on a Tuesday with no return address, and that specific line of text where my name should have been, I assumed, reasonably, that it was some kind of printing error, a template default that hadn't been filled in correctly. I opened it anyway. Inside was a set of neatly folded bedsheets, still in their original packaging, along with a small handwritten note that said only, "For the room that gets cold in October." My bedroom does get cold in October. It's the only room in the house with a drafty window I've meant to fix for 2 years. I want to be clear that my first instinct wasn't fear. It was mild annoyance, the kind you feel at a delivery mix-up. I assumed a neighbor had ordered a housewarming gift for someone moving in nearby and gotten the address wrong, and I set the sheets aside, meaning to return them or ask around. The second package came 11 days later. Same handwriting on a small card inside. Same absence of a return address. Same phrasing on the shipping label. Whoever lives here next. Except this time, the label had my house's exact address, unit number and all. Correctly formatted, impossible to mistake for a neighboring house. Inside was a space heater, still boxed, along with a note. The drafty window makes the whole room worse. By November. This should help until you can get it fixed properly. I sat with that note a long time. Nobody I know refers to my bedroom window as drafty, except me. In passing, to almost no one. I'd mentioned it once, maybe, to a coworker months earlier, the kind of small complaint you make and immediately forget you said. I did what felt like the obvious thing and traced the shipping information as far as I could. The packages had been ordered through a delivery service that anonymizes sender information by default, unless the sender chooses to disclose it. A common feature for gift purchases. The common feature for gift purchases. You people sending anonymous care packages. Nothing unusual on their end. She could confirm only that the account placing the orders had been created recently. Paid through a gift card rather than a linked card, and had no name attached beyond a generic display handle. Housewarming help. I asked if she could tell me anything about the shipping address history, whether previous orders under that account had gone to other addresses before mine. She said the account's order history showed exactly 2 orders, both to my address, both within the past 3 weeks, which meant whoever this was hadn't been sending things to other people before me. I was, as far as their record showed, the first and only recipient. I mentioned it to my sister, mostly as an unsettling but ultimately harmless anecdote. The kind of story you tell over dinner because it's stranger than anything else that's happened to you lately. She didn't find it as harmless as I'd framed it. She asked, very specifically, whether the notes had said anything about a timeline, anything suggesting when I'd need these things. Rather than just describing problems with the house itself. I went back and reread both notes with that question in mind and found something I'd genuinely missed the first 2 times. The sheet's note said for the room, Ober, phrased not as a general observation about the house, but as though describing a specific upcoming October. This one, a season that at the time of the package's arrival was still 6 weeks away. I didn't want to follow the thought any further than that, so I didn't. Not out loud. Not with my sister on the phone. I changed the subject. Then, the third package arrived 4 days ago, smaller than the others. And this is the one that made me stop treating this as an unsettling curiosity. And start treating it as something I needed to actually understand. Inside was a set of care instructions for houseplants. Specific ones. The eggplant sitting on my kitchen windowsill. Right now, along with a small laminated card listing which of my neighbors to ask for help, water and... I'm done doing the week you're away. I'm not planning to be away any week in the foreseeable future. I don't have a trip booked. No reason to leave. Nothing on my calendar that would require anyone to water my plants on my behalf. I called the delivery service again, more insistent this time, and finally got someone willing to escalate beyond the standard privacy policy. She came back after checking with the supervisor and told me something that unsettled me more than any note so far. The account placing these orders had scheduled 2 additional deliveries to my address. Both already paid for, both dated for a specific week 6 weeks from now. A week I have, as far as I currently know. Absolutely no plans to be away for. I asked carefully whether she could tell me anything else about those scheduled orders, what they contain. She said company policy didn't allow her to disclose the contents of future orders, only confirmed that they existed and were scheduling that felt, in that moment, less like customer service policy and more like something being deliberate, not kept from me until the appropriate date. I've spent the past 4 days doing the kind of quiet, obsessive research you do when you've decided a mundane explanation should exist and simply haven't found it yet. I checked whether my landlord has any planned renovations, any notice of upcoming work that might require me to temporarily vacate. Nothing on file. I checked with my employer about any work travel that might get scheduled without much notice. Nothing currently planned. I checked with a kind of embarrassed thoroughness. I don't want to examine too closely. whether anyone in my life has been planning some kind of elaborate surprise involving my house. Nobody has. I asked directly, more than once, in ways that would have been obvious if there had been a surprise to protect. I don't know who is sending these packages, or how they seem to know with unsettling specificity about small true things regarding my house that I've barely mentioned to anyone. Drafty window. The exact species of my houseplants. 6 weeks from now that apparently, according to whatever is arranging this, I won't be spending at home. I've started, despite myself, treating the notes less like a mystery to solve. Someone, somewhere, quietly outfitting this house for whoever will need it after. I'm not the one living here anymore, working from a timeline that seems to already be settled, waiting only for me to catch up to it. I haven't canceled the delivery account, mostly because I don't currently know how, given that it isn't mine to cancel. I check the mail every day now, earlier than I used to, standing on the porch a little longer than necessary, telling myself I'm just curious what arrives next. I have started keeping a small folder of the notes, in order, dated. 6 weeks from now is closer than it was when this started. I don't know yet what I'm supposed to do with that information, only that whoever is sending these seems entirely confident I won't need to be told twice.